If you've been anywhere on the internet in the last 24 hours, you've probably seen it. The term microslop is trending. It's being used to describe what's happening with Microsoft right now. And it's not a compliment. Thousands of people are using it to mock what they see as Microsoft completely fumbling the Windows update they just released. Some are calling it the moment Windows finally imploded. Others are saying it's the death of the Windows philosophy they've known for 3 decades. And this is the story of how Microsoft managed to take one of the most powerful operating systems in the world and divide it in a way that's made people question whether the company even understands what they're doing anymore. Before we look at the technical details, let's find out why people are using the word microslop at all. The term is being used to describe what users see as a poor quality decision made by Microsoft without proper consideration for the millions of people still using traditional Windows systems. It's not about the update being buggy or broken. It's about the entire approach being seen as lazy, backwards, and prioritizing Microsoft's business goals over user needs. When you search for microslop right now, you're seeing threads from developers, gamers, office workers, and then casual users all expressing the same frustration. Why would Microsoft make a decision that instantly makes the majority of Windows devices feel second class? Why wouldn't they communicate this clearly in advance? Why are background AI components appearing on systems that can't use them? Why does it feel like Microsoft is trying to push users somewhere without being honest about it? That's what Microslop has come to represent. A company making decisions that feel greedy, opaque, and out of touch with what the people actually using their product want. And the kicker is, this comes at a time when people already have options. Linux has become more user-friendly. Apple has invested heavily in making macOS attractive. Mobile devices have become so powerful that many people don't even need a traditional PC anymore. Microsoft used to have a monopoly on computing. Now they're acting like they still do. And people are noticing. For the first time in Windows history, the operating system has been divided into two separate technical tracks. Microsoft is calling them the bromine core and the germanium core. Think of it like this. Instead of one Windows that runs on all hardware with minor optimizations, there are now two versions, and they're built on fundamentally different architectures. The new 26H1 update, the bromine version, is designed exclusively for ARM-based processors. It's optimized for those newer Snapdragon X2 chips and NVIDIA's N1 systems. Everything else, every Intel and AMD system out there, stays on what's being called the standard branch, which is still germanium-based and still uses the x86-64 architecture that's been the backbone of Windows for decades. Now, Microsoft's official explanation for this split is their new agentic AI features. These are supposed to be the next generation of AI integration directly into the operating system. According to Microsoft's technical documentation, these features require a specific kind of neural processing architecture that only exists in the latest ARM chips. The NPU, Neural Processing Unit, architecture is different between ARM and x86 systems. Microsoft claims it's impossible to deliver the same experience across both platforms. But here's where the skepticism starts. The tech community knows that high-end x86 systems can run large language models locally. We've already seen them running on RTX 40 series GPUs. We know the hardware is capable. So the question becomes, is this a technical limitation? Or is this about Microsoft pushing a specific vision of what Windows should be? The real purpose of this split appears to be to establish what Microsoft calls Copilot plus PC as a premium tier. If you want the full Windows 26 H1 experience with all the new AI-powered features, the agentic OS that can predict your needs, automate workflows, and integrate AI directly into your daily computing, you need the right hardware badge. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what Microsoft is actually building. The term agentic OS has become Microsoft's marketing pitch for Windows 26 H1. It's not just more Copilot features in the taskbar or better search results. It's something more ambitious. An agentic operating system is one that acts more like a proactive assistant than a passive tool. Instead of waiting for you to ask for something, it watches what you're doing, understands the context of your work, and anticipates what you might need next. It could automatically move files to the right folders when it detects you're working on a project. It could draft emails based on the conversation it sees you having. It could organize your calendar based on patterns it notices. It could surface information before you even realize you need it. This represents a significant philosophical shift. For decades, Windows has been something you interact with directly. You open applications, you manage files, you execute commands. In the agentic model, Windows becomes something that's working alongside you, predicting your intentions, and taking action on your behalf. The catch is obvious. That level of integration requires data. It requires the system to be constantly indexing what you're doing, monitoring your activity, analyzing your patterns, and keeping all of that information accessible to the AI system. For that to work properly, Microsoft is claiming you need a dedicated neural processing unit in your hardware, the kind only found in newer ARM-based systems. The x86 architecture used by Intel and AMD can technically handle AI workloads, but Microsoft's position is that the integrated NPU in these ARM chips provides a more efficient, purpose-built experience that x86 systems simply can't match. Whether or not you believe that technical justification, the business outcome is clear. To get Windows 26 H1 to access these AI features that will apparently define the next generation of Windows, you need to buy new hardware. You need to move to an ARM-based system. And for a company like Microsoft, that's a significant policy change. Here's where the concerns shift from technical to something darker. Even if your system isn't eligible for 26H1, even if you're still running on Intel or AMD, Microsoft still pushed out a security update yesterday. That's normal, totally expected. Security patches come regularly, but inside that standard security update, researchers have found components tied to what's being called the agentic framework. This is the foundation that would power those AI features. And it's showing up on systems that don't have access to the new AI tools. That's the problem. Several users, including some with technical expertise who examine system processes, have reported finding new background services with names like AI host, local agent, and other processes tied to data collection, activity logging, and system indexing. None of these services are new to Windows, but the concentration of them, appearing in systems that won't use the features they support, is raising red flags. What's happening with Windows 26 H1 is a watershed moment for the PC industry, and it's worth stepping back to understand why. For the entire history of Windows, the philosophy has been flexibility and universal compatibility. You can build your own PC from parts. You can upgrade components independently. You can move to a different manufacturer's hardware. Dell, HP, Lenovo, custom builders, they all competed on price, features, performance, and design. Windows ran on all of them equally. This created an open ecosystem where innovation came from competition and users benefited from choice. Now, Microsoft is building a two-tier system. The full new premium Windows experience is locked behind specific hardware. Yes, technically you can still upgrade to 26H1 on older systems, but you won't get the features, you won't get the agentic OS. You'll be on the legacy track. That's the messaging Microsoft is sending. The practical impact on users is already happening. If you checked for updates on your Intel or AMD system, you might have gotten the message that your PC is up to date. The 26H1 update simply isn't available to you. It's not that it's blocked by a warning message or a compatibility checker you could bypass. It's that the update distribution system doesn't even offer it to your hardware configuration. For some users, this feels fine, but for others, it's frustrating. There's also been a small but vocal group looking for leaked or unofficial builds of 26H1 to try on their systems. This is a bad idea for several reasons. First, these leaked builds weren't designed for x86 systems. You could corrupt your installation, break critical functionality, or end up with a system that won't boot. Second, you're bypassing all of Microsoft's quality control. Third, they're often floating around places with minimal security vetting, and malware could be included. It's just not worth the risk. The smartest move for most users right now is to stay on 25H2, review their privacy and telemetry settings to understand what's running on their machine, and wait to see how this situation actually evolves. The real story behind Windows 26 H1 is about Microsoft's strategic pivot toward AI as the future of computing, and hardware as the lever to push users into that future. For the past few years, Microsoft has been investing heavily in AI and building close partnerships with NVIDIA and Qualcomm. The Copilot integration into Windows has been a major initiative, but it's been somewhat limited. Windows 26 H1 represents the next step. To make that work at the scale and efficiency Microsoft wants, they need dedicated hardware. The NPUs in Snapdragon, X2, and NVIDIA N1 chips are designed specifically for this kind of workload. But there's another layer to this. By controlling which hardware can run which features, Microsoft is essentially controlling the entire product stack. This isn't necessarily an evil conspiracy. It's just business. Apple has done this for years. If you're using a current Windows system and wondering what to do, first, don't panic. Your computer isn't obsolete overnight. Windows 25 H2 is stable, secure, and fully functional. There's nothing wrong with continuing to use it for as long as you need to. Second, don't install leaked builds of 26H1. The risks outweigh any benefits. You could seriously damage your system. Third, if you're interested in understanding what's running on your machine, go into Windows Privacy and Security settings. Look at diagnostic data settings, background app permissions, and startup services. Know what's active. You don't have to disable everything, but you should know what's there. Fourth, stay informed. The situation is evolving, and Microsoft might provide more transparency about what these background services do. And finally, if the idea of hardware gatekeeping bothers you, let Microsoft know through social media, feedback, and the channels they provide. Here's what really matters about Windows 26 H1 and the Bromine update. It's a signal. Microsoft is signaling that the future of Windows is AI-powered, that it's tied to specific hardware, and that if you want to be part of that future, you need to buy the right machine. They're signaling that the universal Windows platform, one operating system, multiple hardware options, is being replaced with a tiered system. Whether you see that as innovation or as the beginning of planned obsolescence depends on your perspective. But it's a major shift. So here we are. Microsoft released an update that split Windows in two. They locked the future of the OS behind specific hardware. They installed background AI components on systems that can't even use them. And they did it all with minimal transparency or communication. The people calling it Microslop aren't wrong. The move feels sloppy. The execution feels confused. The communication feels tone-deaf. A company the size of Microsoft, with the resources they have, should have anticipated this backlash. Whether Windows actually implodes, or whether this just becomes another controversial decision that people get used to, remains to be seen. But what's clear is that we've reached an inflection point. The open Windows platform is being replaced with something else, something more controlled, something that benefits Microsoft more than it benefits users.